Good afternoon. I have the great pleasure to start a dialogue with one of the chief executives, probably most in the news last year, and also, Dr. Bourla, you made today a very groundbreaking announcement. We will certainly come back. But I have the pleasure to introduce Dr. Albert Bourla, who is since 2019, just before the COVID crisis broke out. You were nominated chairman and CEO of Pfizer. And what formidable journey in the last 30 months. And you certainly have made a major contribution that many of us became resistant against the virus. So thank you on behalf of everybody. And I think what is remarkable is the fact that you went into this direction or venture without asking for public help, as far as I know, because you could have probably had access to billions of dollars, but you did it yourself, you did it alone, together with your partner, also BioNTech. Now, I just said that you made a major announcement, a groundbreaking announcement this morning. Can you tell us a little bit more?
First of all, thank you for the honor, Chairman, to be here with you. Today we announced that we will offer all our patent-protected medicines, all vaccines or medicines that currently exist in the US or in Europe, to the 45 poorest countries of the world. It is a population of 1.2 billion people at cost. And we also make the commitment that every year, as we discover and bring to the US or to Europe or to the world new medicines, automatically those new medicines will be inserted into the offer of the portfolio that we will offer into these countries. I think that it's really a fulfillment of a dream that we had together with my leadership team when we started in 19. The first week we met in January of 19 in California, and to set up the goals for the next 5 years. And one of them was by 2023, we will reduce the number of people in the world that cannot afford our medicines by 50%. I think today, this dream is becoming reality.
So it's really a purpose-driven company, and if you say at cost, without margin, or certainly you must add a certain margin for research and development?
We will not. We define at cost strictly what it takes to manufacture it and very minimal shipment. We exclude all the research money that took to invent the medicines, or the legal that took to make the contracts, or everything, or the administrative cost, everything that it is sometimes is added to the non-profit will not be added in that case. It's going to be strictly the cost to make and ship.
If I think of all the discussions during the last year related to COVID medicine, I think this is such a breakthrough. And if we see how many people in the developing world, and here I immediately come in with the question, when we talk about the developing world, whom do you help? I mean, are all countries included? Or?
Yeah. We use the principle. So we are including all the low-income countries, according to the World Bank definition. There are 27. But because there is always a gray line between the income of countries that they are not anymore because they improved a little bit, but still they cannot afford, we decided that every country that used to be low income, but they graduated to higher level, the last 10 years will also be included. That gives us 45 countries, which are 1.2 billion of population.
1.2 billion people.
Yes.
And would you help those countries also afterwards to develop their own production line?
What we are going to do, and this is a very good point, that what we discovered through the pandemic was that supply was not enough to resolve the issues that these countries are having. Right now, for example, there are billions of doses of our vaccine, the vaccine that was used in Europe, in the US, that it is offered to low-income countries for free. And it is offered by the US government mainly, but also by the European Union, but they're doing donations. So the US government bought for us at cost and they donate it. They can't use them right now because we discovered that one thing is supply and the other thing is to have educated population that believe that vaccines is doing well, to have doctors or nurses that will administer, to have infrastructure and logistical that you can store it in every place in the country and not only in the capital of the country. A lot of things are missing. For this reason, and given the lessons that we got, in addition to the initiative that is broad and addresses 45 countries, we selected 5 of them that the governments are really keen to work on these issues as well. Those 5, it is Rwanda, Malawi, Uganda, Ghana, and Senegal. So with those 5, we signed already our letters of intent, and we will work not only giving them the medicines, but on the ground to identify blockages between the medicine arrives in the country and the medicines is used by a patient. Is it that, for example, we have now breast cancer medicines. They are very expensive medicines. There are women in Africa that they have breast cancer. They're not diagnosed all. And one thing is to say, we don't invest in diagnosing breast cancer because we don't have the medicine anyway. Now you will have the medicine, but you need both. Yeah. So we will send also experts from our side. We have a program that we call Global Fellows. So everyone in Pfizer can raise their hand and say, I volunteer. I want to go to work with the NGO for 6 months, for 9 months. And we guarantee his position when he goes back. We keep providing the salary and we provide also cost accommodations. And we network with these organizations. Physicians can go, doctors, engineers can go to help with this country. So we will do all of that so to make sure that it's not only we wash our hands, we send your medicines, we care to make an impact. We care to make a difference.
So you are becoming really a global health provider. And
unfortunately, I wish to be able to do that. I don't think I will be able to do it alone. So that's why I'm calling everyone that has something to offer in that space, the World Health Organization, the Bill Gates Foundation, the Carter Foundation, other organizations, non-governmental, Doctors Without Borders, that they have resources there. We would like to partner together so they can do diagnosis, we can give the medicines.
Like Gavi, which
Gavi, for example, has made a huge difference in the world.
Yeah.
The biggest product of Gavi, the one that according to Gavi and Bill Gates have saved more lives, it is a pneumococcal vaccine that we are providing.
See, let's say the founder was Bill Gates, but it was originated here. Actually, Gavi was born here.
He always says that when he speaks. He says that was here in Davos, mate.
Davos, yeah. It's a Davos child, if I may say so. And we have many children. Now, you referred to it already. How important is cooperation? I mean, not only you have to have cooperations with other businesses, but also with governments. I feel you have sometimes to do also with very little knowledge of government for such matters like complicated medicines and so on. What is the importance of cooperation? How do you approach it?
I think it's very important. I think nothing would have happened during the pandemic, for example, without cooperation, but nothing would have happened when Gavi was founded. And nothing would have happened in the world if the stakeholders, they don't set common goals. Certainly they need to be purpose-driven goals and follow through those goals. We saw it in all aspects. For example, AstraZeneca partnered with academia, Oxford, to make it happen. We partnered with a small biotech to make it happen. We partnered with FDA or EMA to approve the products. There was a lot of work that happened from many so that we will be able to reach the level that we reached.
I have to say, as an observer, when I look at your cooperation with BioNTech, uh, in such a setting, you feel that there must be tensions, but you always really acted as twins, cooperating. Can you say something about it?
Yeah, I can say. I think it is the best partnership we ever had.
Yeah.
I think the trust is what is defined, starts from the top. Surprisingly, not surprisingly, but thank God, we bonded immediately with Ugur Sahin, who is the founder. And it is amazing because I'm Greek and Jew, and he's Turk and Muslim. And I immigrated to the US and he immigrated to Germany. So there's common paths in the two of us.
Yeah.
And we both, the first thing that we exchanged when we set the agreement was that it's going to be an oral agreement for the next couple of months because you don't have time to sign contracts. We start the work immediately. We started the work
in January or when?
We started the work in March, and we signed the contract after 2 months, which was only the research. The main contract, which was the commercial agreement to define billions, basically, of dollars, was signed in January of 21, after everything was done. All of that time, we were operating with the trust of our world, which doesn't happen in corporate world. Right?
Now, I come back to a technical question. When you produce those very complicated medicines, about mRNA, some people say the knowledge is actually not the intellectual property of the product, it's the production itself. Could you say something about it?
I think there are across the board. For example, we don't own right now for this vaccine intellectual property. It is BioNTech's, right? But we developed the manufacturing process to be able to do it. So all of that are things that they count. In general, I think that the mRNA technology, it is a very powerful technology. I don't think it's a panacea. I don't think it's the holy grail. I don't think that will treat all diseases in the world. But I do think that we have just scratched the surface of what we can see.
How much is the mRNA technology protected by patents or?
I think it's the holy grail. Without the protection, BioNTech would never have the money that they got from their investors to develop it. Without intellectual property, we would never have the money that we have because everything we do it with other people's money. They're called shareholders. Yeah. They can tell us, put the money in new research or give it back to us for dividends. I think the bloodline of the innovative industry, it is this concept that a property cannot only be bricks and mortar, can also be intellectual property. And that's exactly what is happening in technology or in high biology. It's very important.
Now, that leads me exactly to the next question. What drives you, actually? Is it scientific curiosity? Is it, I mean, you excluded already material, let's say, reasons. What drives Dr. Bourla?
Me personally.
Yeah, personal.
I like what I do. I like what we do because it's intellectually challenging, but also has the additional benefit that the success brings good to the world. It's very intellectually challenging to make a perfect cell phone. And that brings satisfaction to the world, and anybody should be very proud of being able to do it. But when you are helping to make a breast cancer medicine or a lung cancer medicine, you are getting not only the satisfaction that you want, but the satisfaction that the impact was saving lives. Yeah. So that's something that in our industry, our people are feeling every day. Yeah. It's not the same with the other industries.
It's to a certain extent like my own 800 colleagues in the forum. I'm being driven by this feeling of improving the state of the world.
It's a very big driver.
Yeah.
And I'm certain that this sense, this mindset was what drove people to work day and night. And I'm talking about not 30 or 40 people, I'm talking about 1,000 people in this vaccine. But because for 8 months, the 4-digit number of people, they were not sleeping, literally.
Which leads me exactly to the next question. When to take on COVID-19, to produce your vaccines, it must have meant a major change of the company. I mean, you had traditional, successful products, and now suddenly you have an overriding objective. How did you manage this?
First of all, it was challenging, but in our being unfortunate to have COVID, that was also fortunate because it drove very different behaviors. Let's remember that the times that we were trying to develop a solution faster than a smaller biotech, that was a challenge for Pfizer, how to move fast, because we are big, right? But these were days of darkness, with no hope in the horizon. So people were afraid that the civilization, the way we know it, could disappear. That was a tremendous weapon in my effort to convince everyone that we need to go about making the impossible possible, because there are a lot at stake. And then, surprise, surprise, they made the impossible possible.
So the company was before, to a certain extent, driven by the fears that the pipelines are running out. And now suddenly you had such a full pipeline.
Yes, but I have to say that there is also because of the work of my predecessor. It's not that I came and I found a company that was collapsing. I found a company the best shape one could give to another, and I built on it.
Now, if you look more to the future, do we have to expect a prolongation of the pandemic, or at least the epidemic, or how would you foresee the future?
Yes.
Or do we have to, and I may immediately ask a second question, should we be afraid of another virus? And what does it mean, how we create the necessary resilience personally, nationally, globally?
On the first question, I don't think that the virus will disappear. We are not certain about it, but most scientists agree that the virus will be around forever. But the real question that everybody is asking is not this. It is, can we get our lives back? Can we live normal economic activity, normal social activity with the virus presence? And the answer is yes. I think we can. Absent a variant that we have not foreseen right now, that can happen, but it's not the most likely scenario. I think we have the means right now, very effective vaccines. As the virus mutates, we have the ability to follow up and let's say update the vaccines and to have treatments. With that, people should not die anymore, even if we are not following the way that we are following the social measures in the past. Now, on the second question, shall we are afraid of a new, very different virus that would come, and to have now all these examples with the monkey pox, I don't think we should be afraid, but I think we should be prepared. Yeah. And that should, even the little fear that we have, that should ease it. And if we are prepared, I think science will win.
Now, some people may argue you have now these new treatments. Some people may argue, why should I get vaccinated if there's a treatment? Well, how would you respond?
Because I think the goal is not for you to get sick and then treat you. The goal is to prevent the sickness. Yeah. And that will maximize your chances to do well, and that will maximize the chances of people that you love not to get infected. Yeah. You vaccinate not only for yourself, you vaccinate also to protect society, and particularly to protect those that you love the most, because they are the ones that you are together.
What do you foresee? I mean, most of I think we set the standard, because in Switzerland, for those who do not know, there are no restrictions anymore. So we set the standard that we require vaccination. Now, how many vaccinations do we need in the future?
It's a very good question. And I think, first of all, I think we will need vaccinations in the future, but also I'm concerned that the compliance of the population with the recommendations of the experts will not be very high. More people did the first dose, and then lesser did the second, and then lesser will do the third and the fourth. And so for that reason, we need to find a solution that makes it easy for people to get. And I think this solution, it is the number one priority is to have a vaccine that lasts a year. So once people know that it is once a year, I do it every autumn, for example, fall, I think that will improve the amount of people that are getting the vaccine.
And I think there are also certain attempts to combine it with a anti-flu vaccine.
That is another very good way to make it, to improve compliance. If someone thinks that I'm going to go to the doctor or to the pharmacy, but at least with one shot I will get two, flu and that also will increase the number. So these are the things. It's very difficult to improve the efficacy right now. It's very, very high. But what you can improve it is how convenient it is and how can last the efficacy for a longer period of time.
It's a question which I ask now to the audience is maybe not fair, but despite, let's say, no restrictions in Switzerland, we insisted on being vaccinated, being tested twice. And this may become a standard for future meetings anyway. I mean, if we are not getting rid of the virus, anybody who felt this was too much, or I said it's an unfair question because who will dare? Who will dare? But I just can share with you, we had many internal discussions. Now, when you Albert, when you look at, let's say, the process to get approval, and usually it's a very FDA, as a European authority, it's a very cumbersome process. Can you tell us something? Do you feel governments understood very fast your needs and reacted positively to your needs, or would you recommend for the future any change in public-private cooperation if we are confronted again with such a situation?
Yeah. There are a lot of good examples, great examples, and there are examples that maybe we can improve for future situations. Always the intention was very good. I'm convinced about it by all. Now, you ask about regulators. I think both EMA and FDA and most regulators, the UK regulators as well, I think they belong in the category that they did extremely well. I think they understood the situation and they sacrificed themselves also a lot. I know that preparing the final report, maybe 30 of our people couldn't sleep for 5 days, and they would send, and then they would go to bed. And then the next day, FDA will start. 30 FDA people will not sleep for 5 days to review the data.
Yeah.
Because usually it takes 6 months, and now they were doing it in 1 week. So this was crucial for our success. We wouldn't be able to do what we did without this collaboration. Now, there are some other examples, but for example, when in countries that there are multiple centers of scientific authority, that they don't coordinate very well. And some happen also in the US, sometimes between NIH and CDC and FDA was not always, let's say, the most smooth collaboration. They are the first ones to recognize that this is happening, and I think they already announced that they try to find ways so that they can be better.
When you get the conditional approval or preliminary approval, who is actually carrying the risk and the liability if something is happening? I mean, if it's not working out well.
Most countries, they identify that. In the US and in Europe was always clearly identified, so they are taking the liability if there are lawsuits, for example, against that.
So the government is taking the liability?
It is. It was some issue with the US and Europe were ready for that already, but I think most of the issues were with some countries that were not familiar with that.
Yeah.
We took what was our concern with the vaccine. It's not with any other medicines. For example, now we don't ask anyone to do anything on liabilities, but with the vaccine, that we knew that there is a very fanatic group of anti-vaxxers that will go after us no matter what. They will claim that the sun didn't go up because people were vaccinated, and that created issues with the crop, so I'm suing you. And one thing it is to sue you in the US, another thing is to sue you in a country where the legal system is not up to that standards, or in Switzerland, right? So I think that's behind us. Everything went okay, and now I think we can move on.
I think we were both targets of the anti-vaccine movements and conspiracy people claiming that I had triple. I wondered what it is, triple COVID. Yeah, and something was, I think it got hundreds of thousands of clicks and so on. I know you were also target.
I read one day that was arrested by FBI.
Yeah, same happened to me.
And there are pictures of me and FBI officers. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I never said. The surprising thing it is that the same publication, I found out because I had published, the previous one that was arrested was the Pope by FBI. So, ridiculous.
Yeah, so we are good company.
At least I was in good company.
Yeah, but there's such a success of mRNA technology. How confident can we be, or how hopeful can we be, that this technology helps also in many other diseases, cancer particularly, malaria I think was mentioned in the media. Can you lift the curtain about what's happening in this respect?
Yes. I think we will see a lot of advancements with mRNA. And the good thing, after the success of COVID, it is that right now we have a substantial wave of companies, biotechs and big pharmas that are working on mRNA. A lot. And they are working on multiple applications of mRNA. So I think the first things that I'm hopeful to see it is other vaccines other than COVID. A flu vaccine with mRNA, a single vaccine with mRNA, other vaccines with mRNA. The second wave, I think that we could see it is cancer. There is a lot of research that is happening for many years now, trying to use your immune system to attack your cancer cells, to train your immune system as the vaccine is training to attack the virus and kill it, is to kill your cancer cells. Then we are going to the third horizon, which the technology will be used for gene editing, to be able, if people are born, they have a genetic disease, that is right now, it is untreatable, and in many cases a death sentence for those. There's nothing that they can do about it. Now we have some hopes that maybe that also can work. So we will see a lot of advancements, exactly because so many people are working. We are working on that as well, on all of that, but there are also many others, so that increases the chances that something will come out.
As a company so much built on research, you had to observe the COVID restrictions yourself. So how did you manage? I mean, with homework, to undertake such a great effort?
Yeah, actually, it's a very good point. And you need to know that we have some other heroes in Pfizer, but they didn't become so famous. They are the people that are working in all our injectable and hospital products. We are the largest supplier of injectable products to the world. And suddenly with COVID, we saw that the demand was going for some medicines that were needed in ICUs from 50 to 500 times. And we had to manage this uptick in supply while we had to operate the manufacturing sites under COVID conditions. So very strict, who goes in, who goes out. I'm very proud of what they were able to do, because really in the world, we didn't see, with few exceptions here and there that were transient, big issue with ICUs don't have their medicines. They were transient, as I said, but it could have been a disaster. And it was not because of the work that they did.
Didn't you have...
No, thank you. Thank you for them.
Didn't you have a problem with part of the company engaged in such a exciting exercise, and then you had the traditional part? There must have been a cultural, let's say, tension between the two parts. How did you manage it?
I'm trying to tease the others that you have now to prove that you have your moment. And cancer team, you saw what the vaccines team did. So now is your time to shine. bring us the cure, not only the... So, and they do. Actually, vaccines was one of the 6 business units of Pfizer, and the other 5 were watching them, doing their thing, and they were also wanting to have their moment. And the second one was the infectious disease unit that did the treatment. And I'm sure the others are working on that as well.
I have a last question. Time is unfortunately running out, and we could certainly continue for a long time. What, if you take all your experience now, and you have here many CEOs also sitting in the room, what would be your message to them? Based on your personal experience.
Personal leader and CEO. I think the biggest lesson for me was that people, they don't know what they can and cannot do in their lives. And if you set the bar high, if you give them very high ambitious goals and trust and resources, you will be surprised how much they deliver.
Now I add a question. And the question is, you must have had some doubts yourself, because there was such an expectation level of the public, and it could have gone wrong with some setbacks or some bad cases and so on. How did you manage yourself this tension over such a long time?
It was tension for all, and for me. And the truth is that the CEO is in a lonely position, because there is no one to stop you if you make a mistake. So, which means that buck stops with you there, and you are responsible for everything, right? But I felt that what really made me drive is we don't have any option here. What is the option? Not to do it, and then what? Have the world die? I mean, if Pfizer wouldn't engage full speed in something like that, with all hands on deck, when the world was needing something like that, who would do it? Right? So that was very clear. That's what we have to do. And that keeps you dry. When you understand that this is what is at stake, you understand that if you lose 3 billion, it will be painful, but it's not going to be the end of the world. But if we don't find a solution, it's going to be very painful for all.
Thank you. And when we applaud you, I think we do it for 2 reasons. First, it was very evident your social responsibility, your sense for purpose. And second, thank you for having so openly shared with us your, let's say, objectives and also your concerns and what drives you. Thank you very much, Dr. Bourla.
Thank you very much.